Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a lot of stuff to get out to you before I leave for Munich. Probably only going to be able to get 2 videos, maybe, if I'm lucky. I have this video, and then tomorrow morning, although by the time you watch this, it would have already happened, I have an interview with Mark Levinson to learn more about the Daniel Hertz products that he's come out with, EQ, reverb, the C-Wave, all in one box, lots of things that you've been seeing the industry move in this direction, and Mark Levinson being a legend in the hobby, an icon, now pushing a product line, coming out with something not unique per se, totally, but certain aspects of it seem unique, and I want to learn a lot more about it because I did read the patent and I have some definite questions about some of the things I read. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I can get that out before I leave for Munich. I will be gone to Munich for 2 weeks because I'm going to tour Italy after that and go on a tour with some other members of the press at some manufacturers. But I'm going to keep that under wraps for now. Little suspense. Actually, people in the membership group already know, but stay tuned for that. And then when they come back, it's not too long before 3MA has their June 1st grand opening, and I'll be covering that. So lots coming down the pipe, but what I wanted to slip in before I leave is this video that kind of piggybacks on stuff that I've been talking about, but especially came to the forefront in Montreal, where, you know, we had this issue, if you've been following along, where a particular room had speakers wired out of phase. And this particular one got attention, but I've seen it many times. And in fact, what I'm going to be doing with this video is re-releasing a video I did 3 years ago. And that was back when almost nobody was watching me. I had maybe 100 people watch this video. Actually, when I started this channel, it was mainly for what is now my WhatsApp group. I had a small group of texting group, and I would do stuff, but it was not conducive to doing certain things through text. So I would do a video on YouTube, and then I did it with the aspect of, yeah, it could be public, but that's how my channel basically grew. It was mainly for a select group, and then it just, for whatever reason, caught on over time to a larger group. And this is a video that was released 3 years ago when I was still in that infancy. Not a lot of people watched it, but it has some things that are applicable to current events still today. And I wanted to share this with you now that I have a much bigger subscriber group, because one of the frequently asked questions I get is, hey, what do you prioritize when I'm building a system? And I'm a newbie. Can you help me? What I need to know in this hobby? And those are welcome questions. Never, you know, be afraid to ask that question. So many people pretend that they have more experience, or say, oh, my ears are the best judge. I don't need to learn anything. They're the best measuring instrument. You know, it's almost like these guys that buy the fanciest golf clubs, almost take no lessons or 1 or 2 lessons, and go out there and just make fools of themselves on the golf course. Same thing in the audiophile hobby. Obviously, I've talked about priorities. You want to get your room right, and all kinds of things that impact the sound even more than the gear. But picking the right speaker for your taste, for your room, all kinds of, and DSP and other things that people overlook. Just going, some people are just for the eye candy, bragging rights, prices, and fancy stuff. That's fine to get into at some point, but you have to get the basics down first. And so many people want to leapfrog that and pretend to be experts and pretend to know stuff. And what ends up happening, you know, even experts at these shows make mistakes and wire things out of phase. This particular video that I shot 3 years ago was based on a speaker that a dealer took in trade-in, and the entire time it was wired internally out of phase. Or at least it was at the point he traded in. So I don't, and the guy said he never did anything to it. So for however long he owned this, which was over 10 years, he had been listening to speakers out of phase all that time. And so what it brings up to the point is, even before room and DSP and all these things that should be room treatments and things that should be high priorities, you can't even leapfrog one thing that trumps all that stuff. Training your ears. Yes, your ears can be the ultimate judge, even when you're a newbie in this hobby, but you're not going to know what you don't know. You know, don't pretend to know stuff you don't know. And if you have never correlated and tested yourself and trained yourself to what you hear to measurements and high fidelity metrics, you're just going to make a fool of yourself pretending, because These metrics, as I've said many times, high fidelity metrics, are not the opposite of your ears. They're because of people's ears and lots of testing over the years. Yes, there's always going to be somebody likes ketchup on their steak, and that's fine. Those outliers are fine. Or the pretenders, that's fine. They can enjoy the hobby. No hate on that. But if you genuinely want to progress in the hobby, make better decisions, not be on a gear merry-go-round, and enjoy your system with all types of music, and not constantly have regret and angst and neuroticism, you need to train yourself. And so this book back here is a good one to buy. Comes with a CD. You can train yourself. But in this video, I featured a DVD at the time. Now, this DVD you may not find, and obviously DVDs may not be what you want to use to train. But the point is not so much the DVD that I'm featuring that has all these tests, and it's actually a DVD for home theater, but everything that applies to a home theater can apply to 2-channel. Actually, a home theater is much more difficult to set up when you've got 5 channels and all these things that are being tested in this DVD. So for 2-channel, these tests, even though it's on this DVD, you don't have to find that DVD, but if you can find these same tests by searching Qobuz, Tidal, YouTube, the point is, try to find these tests and take what I'm talking about into consideration to start training your ears so that you don't have to worry about somebody miswiring or putting your speakers out of phase, black and red being flipped. You're going to hear it. You're going to know what that sounds like. You're not going to have to just throw up your arms and say, oh, that just sounds bad. You will actually know, oh, that sounds like an out of phase speaker. Then you can go check the wiring. Your ears will be the ultimate judge if you train them properly. Don't be the guy that has the fancy golf clubs, has no idea what to do with them. We have enough of those people in the hobby with bragging rights type gear, and then you go over to their house, and it ends up happening. These people spent that much money on that gear. You know, you don't want to be that guy. You want to be the one that can have modest gear and get them impressed with how good the performance you get out of gear that's much less expensive. That's what you want to get. And the only way you're going to get that is to train yourself. Books like this. I also have a video, maybe I'll put up a link or a card to it where you can do online blind tests. I have a whole video where I took some live while recording. That's something you're going to want to do to train yourself. But this video I thought was still applicable to re-release, at least in part, and give you guys some tips, that ones that have been asking me and the really cool audiophiles that want to progress and the ones that I love talking to in this video and the type that I like having as subscribers. So enjoy, guys. Okay, again, this is a very old DVD, basically 20 plus years old. So you'll see as I go to the advanced menu, graphics are not great here. But again, it's about the actual calibrations, which just like audio gear nowadays, you got more in the past for less money. Same thing with these calibration DVDs. The newest Avia, like I was saying earlier, is kind of junk comparatively. But let's get into the essence. Main speaker setup. Let's just go through some of these. Some of these will be basic, but it's worth going over. Channel identification. If you change out your speakers a lot, or you could be up to 10 speakers with surround sound. It's important to make sure that those are identified right. As I just mentioned, I've gone into rooms where that's been off. So most people don't have to worry about that. You can identify, especially in 2-channel, if the left and right is off, but sometimes you can't. Like I was saying, I was just at a dealer the other day and the left and right was off. So just because people are frequently changing things out. 5-channel speaker balance. Here's another thing that is very important, but not using the method that a lot of these calibration DVDs say. Let me grab my little Rat Shack meter, if I can find it here. Okay, sorry for the camera wobble. Everybody knows these little Rat Shack meters. You can tell even in the shadow without any light. Okay, this is one of the tests that's meant to balance your channels using one of these. But I will tell you that this thing is not very accurate. Not only from a calibration aspect, it's pretty good, but from the aspect of this sensor really is never, when people are measuring it, is never at the exact spot of where 2 ears on your head are. It doesn't take into account head shadow effects, And this is only down to, I think, the 1 dB. And I've been able to detect channel imbalances up to 0.5 dB. Luckily, my surround sound processor allows to the 0.5 dB. And you can kind of tell as you get experience that even 0.5 dB will throw the sound stage, not drastically, but just a little bit heavier weighted. So this is good to start your benchmark of if your channels are balanced, even just left and right. But you're going to ultimately want to use your ears, and this and a pink noise that's supposed to be in the center will be a better test than this using a meter ultimately for that very fine tuning to make sure you have your channel balance correct. And it's not always about just adding dBs on your or balance control on your preamp. It's not about that. Sometimes it's about moving your speakers forward or back just an inch or two that creates that balance that's missing, because the distance from your ears is a little bit different for each speaker, and that's what's creating the imbalance, not the actual dBs coming out of the speaker. So make sure you try to address any channel imbalances. For any actual imbalances in your setup, fix that first before you start changing any balance knobs or things on your surround sound processor. Okay, so let me back up here, go back to the tests. Doing each channel, pretty self-explanatory. Phase is where you're going to really want to understand what in phase and out of phase is. And basically, you can probably hear it on the camera phone. If not, basically when it's in phase, the pink noise is right in the center. And when it's not, it's kind of nebulous. You don't even know where it's coming from. You just can't locate it. So understanding in phase and out of phase, once you understand it, you'll never have to go back and do this test again, because you'll know what that sounds like, that sound of out of phase. And that's when I was doing the Avalons. I knew it within 15 seconds. I heard that out of phase nature to the sound. And so this is one of the CDs, or if you can find a phase test on Tidal, and I'll show you that later. You can find this pretty much anywhere. You want to get your ears trained to understand this. It's even more important when you're doing a home theater, because front left, front right is easy to hear phase, but sometimes when you're talking about left front, not so much center, but on the next page, there should be some with surrounds, or here they are, surrounds. It's a little bit harder to tell phase. So make sure you go through phase correction and testing on all your speakers if you have a home theater. So subwoofer setup, I'll probably have a separate video on subwoofer setup, but just as a high level test of things, it's important to match your subwoofer level, not just in general, but compare it to each one of your speakers like we see here. Even if you just have a right and a left, we're doing 2-channel and not home theater, match it, because what that will uncover, let's say you've got your front channel main speakers matched, but then when you do it with the subwoofer, it's not matched with the left versus the right. Well, that tells you probably your sub is not centered in the middle, or it's exciting something in the room to the left or the right to throw off the balance when you compare it to each speaker. And so then you'll know that it's primarily a placement issue and something in your room. You may want to put some room treatments to negate a cancellation or a mode that's causing that imbalance. So doing a subwoofer level treatment on both of your channels, or all of your channels if we're talking about home theater, is important. Subwoofer phase filtered, pink noise, kind of valuable, not that valuable. You can read through some of the advantages to doing this, but what this will help you understand is if you've got a subwoofer and main speaker that are out of phase. So it should be a strong signal, and when sometimes you have a crossover point that is out of, and your subwoofer and your main speakers are out of phase, you'll have an actual drop at the frequency that you picked as your cutoff. So this pink noise can help you find it, but there are actually even better ways. So that's why I wanted to just briefly mention this one. As we go to the next page, there's actually a better way to determine if your subwoofer and your main speakers are out of phase. This warble tone is great. It's a great test. Try to find a warble tone test. The woo 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 is more, I found, helpful and more realistic to regular music than the subwoofer singular tone, singular harmonic. So this has two benefits. Number one, you can find where your phase is out of your main speakers and your subwoofer may be out of phase when all of a sudden you hear it dip, or maybe you'll hear a peak or something, and you'll hear an issue that you have to address. But the other thing to do, which I'm not doing now, is play this warble tone at a loud level such that you normally listen to. And what that will do is, maybe you're starting to pick it up now on the camera phone. When you're playing these loud warble tones, these warble tones are better at exciting things in your room, that even things that just may rattle on your shelves. And this is important to find those things, because it doesn't matter if the resonance or the noise is from your speakers or whatever. You don't want it. So if something's rattling on your shelves, or a door is rattling and you need to put some blue tack or something to address it, this warble tone test played at a volume that you normally listen to, or even higher, will excite those for you and be a lot easier to help you find the offending thing on a shelf. I know it took me like an hour until I used this warble tone test. I was hearing something rattling on a piece of music, and I kept using that piece of music. It was fruitless. I came and used this. I was able to find the exact spot in the room where something was on a shelf rattling and fix it. All right, so we did the warble tones. Pretty much all of that is good. Now, let's go to the next one, which is verification and evaluation. Wideband pink. This will do different pink noise. And if you got a home theater, this is a really good test, because the pink noise will basically make a circle around your room as it transfers to each of the speakers at different degrees, such that you should be able to hear that ball of sound all around. And if you lose track of it, then you know that the speakers aren't passing off to each other right, and you've got your surrounds not set up correctly. You want that ball to just hear it go all the way around. It's often difficult to hear it, on the very sides. That's where sometimes your speakers will lose touch with the pink noise. So you're going to want to use this test to see if you can do that. And it took me a long time to get this fixed. But a home theater that doesn't have proper imaging is never going to be optimized. Don't spend all your money on these things if it's not optimized. All right. And then there's going to be another one for a different frequency. Ambient noise channel clicker. That's kind of just to see your room if you've got some echoes and stuff. Nothing really big. Here kind of piggybacks on the video I did with my center channel speaker. Just because XYZ manufacturer says this model of center channel matches your main channel speakers doesn't mean it's so. In fact, in most cases, they're lying to you. And you know why they're lying? And you can prove it to yourself. Take this test. Play the pink noise from the center, and then play it from your left and then your right, and see how much tonally it varies. Here, I'm very close. Now, it'll never be accurate, exact, because the radiation from a speaker right in front of you and the distance is different than the ones on the sides, and the radiation there. So there will always be some tonal mismatch. But these, I've got them as well matched as I guarantee any quote speaker maker says their center channel matches their floor standards main channels. Usually they don't. They just flip a speaker on the side, put the same model number on it, and it's very disappointing how far off when you do that test. So be aware of that. This is a low frequency sweep. It does the same things that the warble tone does, but it actually tells you what frequencies it's playing, so you can kind of isolate and see if that dropout is right where you have the crossover point to your speakers and where your subwoofer will pick it up. And other things it'll do, just like I said with the warble tone, you can play this really loud and find the things that are maybe excited and vibrating on your shells and creating noise. So very valuable test. It goes slow. You're going to want one that goes slow. Some of these YouTube ones go too fast for you to basically identify the frequencies or go and find the offending thing on the shelf. So I just wanted to go through these different tests and make sure you do these kind of tests. If you can't find a CD that has them, find something maybe on YouTube, and I'll go through on Tidal where you can find a substitute to that, but that'll be a subsequent video, and I'll stop with this video now and can continue on a separate video for that explicit purpose. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, sign up for notifications, and we will see you soon.